What I'm about to show you will forever change how you see life. How can parents do this with their daughter? The disappearance of a 12-year-old girl remained a secret to her parents, but a mystery to society. Tragically, the girl's body was found by passers-by near the mother's house. What happened to the little girl? Who could have killed her? And why was the body found close to her parents' house? Well, stick till the end as we unveil some family mystery surrounding this case. On a flight headed for China in late June 2001, Maria del Rosario Porto, a small, dark-haired lawyer from Santiago de Compostela in northern Spain, found herself sitting nervously next to her husband, Alfonso Basterra. On the other hand, Alfonso, a quiet man from the Basque country, is a freelance journalist. The couple, both in their mid-30s, set out on this adventure with the intention of adopting a little girl. Despite some difficulties along the way, the couple was able to persuade the Spanish authorities in their area that they could give their future kid a caring home. Meanwhile, Rosario's background gave their argument a lot more credence. Her mother was a well-liked art history instructor at the university, and her father was a lawyer who had represented France as an honorary consular in Santiago. In Santiago, a city of 93,000 wealthy people, adopting from China was uncommon at the time. Rosario even went so far as to promote her adoption story on local television, which further increased their social recognition. Psychologists' evaluations, however, presented a positive image of the couple. While her husband was described as patient, laid-back, understanding, humorous, and with a strong sense of self-determination, Porto seemed to be kind, laid-back, emotionally expressive, cooperative, flexible, and solicitous. Within their social circle, the Porto family was regarded as aristocracy. In Yongzhou, Hunan, China, in the year 2000, Asunta Fang Yong Basterra was born. She was taken in by Alfonso Basterra Camporo and Maria del Rosario Porto Ortega when she was 9 months old. Asunta was among the first Chinese adoptees in all of Galicia and the first adopted in the city of Santiago. Asunta was reportedly a bright youngster who could play the piano, violin, and ballet. She flourished and showed signs of extraordinary intelligence, which allowed her to move up one grade in high school. Her parents, aware of the difficulties of raising a gifted kid, were both concerned and supportive of her abilities. Meanwhile, she had hectic Saturdays. She would get up at 7 in the morning, start Chinese lessons at 8, and finish at 10. She would then go to ballet class from 11:15 till 1:30, and then French until lunch. And then piano and violin after lunch, but gaps started to appear in the family. Porto was admitted to a private mental health facility in 2009 for a 2-night stay. She described her thoughts as racing and expressed sentiments of suicidality, indifference, and guilt. She acknowledged that she felt her own mother was a rival. When Porto's stability returned by 2011, she considered enrolling Asunta in a year-long English language program to help her develop her innate abilities. This terrible time began when Porto's mother died, and then her father died 7 months later, both while they were lying in bed. The tragedy of losing her parents exposed the disintegration of Porto's marriage. Long before, Porto had grown distant from Basterra, considering him to be unduly antisocial, overly puritanical, apathetic, and unpredictable. She started dating Manuel Garcia, a self-assured and prosperous businessman, after confiding in a friend about her dissatisfaction with her unfulfilling homemaker husband. When Alfonso reviewed his wife's emails on January 5, 2013, he found evidence of her infidelity. On the 8th, they quarreled and broke up. Rosario initially experienced terrible scenes, was tormented, and was inundated with accusations and reprimands from Alfonso through text messages. To the amazement of their social circle, the marriage was dissolved by mutual consent on February 14th. Alfonso Basterra saw a psychotherapist, and eventually the couple reached an equilibrium. But after a brief absence to seek comfort from family in the Basque country, Basterra returned and rented a modest flat close by with the express purpose of making sure Asunta was happy. He looked after the girl and, in return, Rosario gave him some financial support. Despite her lupus condition, Rosario still experienced depression spells. They shared small living quarters, and he had unrestricted access to his kid. Asunta walked the short distance between the two residences, dividing her time between them. Porto had a nervous breakdown in June 2013, resulting in severe physical symptoms such as facial paralysis and disorientation. After helping her return home a week later, Basterra hurried to her side in the hospital. They dined at Basterra's house, and he even contemplated the notion of them moving back in together. It was almost like going back to their old existence. But something odd happened on the evening of July 4th or 5th that nobody could explain. In Asunta's room, a man attempted to strangle her between 2:30 and 4:30. The keys, according to Rosario, were haphazardly left in the door. She heard sounds while she was sleeping, woke up, and went to her daughter's room to see a short, stocky man with powerful hands wrapped around her daughter's neck while he was wearing latex gloves. Furthermore, this figure was referred to as the Man in Black by the media. When Rosario grabbed him, he gave her a hard shove and fled. Remarkably, Rosario didn't ask for assistance from anyone. This occurrence has been interpreted in several ways. Some people think the mother made it up, while others think it was a first-time attempt at murder committed by the mother or parents, or that it was only a pretext to give her lorazepam. Her dogs did not bark, so Rosario's neighbor was positive that nobody had come inside the house that evening. The mother chose not to report anything further. Asunta did not talk to her best friend about the attempted murder that night after informing her through WhatsApp. When Asunta related the incident while out with a friend, she appeared distressed. The friend's mother got in touch with Rosario and asked her to report it. Rosario went to the Santiago police station to inquire, but in the end, she opted against filing a report even though she had informed her friend's mother that she had. How would a mother take such an act lightly? Was she trying to kill her daughter, or was there something else she was hiding? On July 9th, Basterra appeared sleepy and lightheaded as he brought his daughter to music lessons. He asserted that Asunta was experiencing allergies and that an antihistamine brought on this reaction. A similar event happened later on July 22nd, when the headmistress saw Asunta was having trouble walking, was not able to play well, and was half asleep. Asunta admitted when questioned that her mother had given her a bad-tasting white powder that had dozed her off for hours. Rosario was depressed and anxious in August, and Alfonso looked after her. Asunta spent the month apart from her parents. From the 30th of July to the 22nd of August, she was in Villanova with her godmother. On August 28th, she traveled to the country with her carer, the woman who assisted Rosario with household chores. Her parents contacted her daily while she was gone, but they did not come see her. The girl exuded happiness and carefreeness. After having lunch with her mother at her father's apartment in the afternoon on Saturday, September 21st, 2013, Asunta spread out her study materials on her bedroom floor, watched an episode of The Simpsons, and played cards. Alfredo Basterra and his friend, who is well known to the police for his history of drunk driving, came out of the tavern bar in the village of Ferros early on September 22nd. They got into Basterra's white Volkswagen Golf and headed down a wide driveway to the Satol. When they got to the place, the headlights of the car spotted a human body resting on a slightly sloping bank, only 2 meters from the track. They got out of the car and walked carefully up to the spot. They discovered the girl there, wearing gray sweatpants smeared with mud, a white t-shirt pulled over her tummy, and one arm partially inside a matching top. She had a large wet smear surrounding her crotch, a small quantity of blood-tinged mucus beneath her nose, and her left arm curled up to her shoulder. She was barefooted. Following a report of Asunta's disappearance made by Rosario Porto and Alfonso Basterra at the main Santiago police station at 10:17 p.m. that same night, the police quickly identified the victim as Asunta. Their story goes that around 7 p.m., Asunta was dropped off at her mother's flat to finish her schoolwork, while Porto went to the family's country house, which was about 20 minutes away from Santiago in Teo Parish. When Porto got back at 9:30 at night, Asunta was gone. Asunta had always been diligent and disciplined, so her sudden disappearance caused instant anxiety. Nevertheless, to the on-duty police inspector Villacoba, Porto and Basterra recounted that at first they waited, thinking Asunta may be making her way between their apartments. They did, however, report her missing after their search turned up nothing. Inspector Villacoba shared the devastating news with Asunta's parents at 4:45 a.m. following an earlier in the evening cigarette share with Basterra outside the apartment complex. Basterra conveyed his concern that Asunta could have suffered injury in another way. The days that followed were a blur of grieving, police interrogations, and medication for Porto. After her parents were cremated, Porto returned to the crematorium on September 24th, her third funeral in 18 months. For the public wake, the crematorium was packed to capacity. Porto and her ex-husband took pictures of the white coffin, which was closed and surrounded by white rose and lily arrangements, on their phones before it was sent to the incinerator. Although there were no tangible indicators, like fibers or fingerprints, connecting Porto to her daughter's corpse, the police had strong reasons to detain her. How did she eventually pull such a stunt? Who could have supported her in the killing of her daughter? How did the police come about the idea that Porto would have murdered her child? Well, the most important piece of evidence was found on a CCTV camera at a local petrol station. It showed Porto driving the family's vintage green Mercedes-Benz towards their rural house while a long-haired female rode beside her. Interestingly, according to Porto's story, this happened at a time when Asunta was meant to be at home. Her actions also raised suspicion, particularly her hasty visit to a chamber that included pieces of orange boar thread resembling the one found close to Asunta's corpse, even though a roll of the same twine was also located nearby. The evidence was not conclusively linked to the crime by forensic analysis. It didn't seem likely that Porto acted alone if she had killed Asunta. Judge Tain therefore issued an order for Basterra's arrest the day following Porto's. There was not much tangible evidence linking him to the crime, but suspicions were raised by forensic discoveries of lorazepam in Asunta's system. Investigators concluded that the couple, tired of their adoptive daughter, planned her murder. Porto was thought to be the main culprit. Her actions were probably influenced by her emotional distress after her parents passed away. Following his detention, Basterra was placed next to his spouse in a police cell with a thin divider separating them, which allowed them to speak and be secretly captured on camera. Hours of taped talks later, there were no confessions of guilt or evidence linking Porto and Basterra to any wrongdoing. These recordings were eventually declared inadmissible by the court. "Look what trouble your overheated imagination has got us into," was one of Porto's cryptic remarks, as Basterra snaps, "Stop talking, it's possible that they are hearing us." Shockingly, Asunta Basterra's clothing was found to contain semen, which helped identify a man who lived in Madrid and had a history of similar crimes. He denied being in Gallia on the day when Asunta died, even after being charged. This aspect of the case remains unanswered because of contradictions in his testimonies and ambiguities regarding how the semen wound up on the girl's clothing. There were concerns about a potential sexual motive behind Asunta's death after erotic and pornographic material was found on Alfonso Basterra's laptop. Although earlier searches of Basterra's premises had turned up nothing of the sort, a later search approved by the judge did find his laptop and a cell phone. The girl, Asunta Basterra, makes an appearance in the summary following a costume party thanks to photos found in the stolen files. Investigators questioned if her father should have such pictures, as the daughter is seen in them sleeping, wearing stockings and a corset. In one of the pictures, she is also seen with her legs exposed. Was Asunta's father molesting her? Could it be they were fed up with their adopted daughter to had wanted her dead? What was the real reason behind the drugs given to Asunta? There were only two evidence to support the charge. The orange rope remnants discovered near Asunta Basterra's corpse matched those discovered at Rosario Porto Chalet and had a high anxiolytic content. At the trial, two experts who took part in the analysis clarified that the child had consumed at least 27 pills of lorazepam, an anxiolytic from the Orchid brand, and that this substance unquestionably poisoned her. The mother had been prescribed this antidepressant due to her complicated psychological history. The Orfidal pill issue was a crucial part of Basterra's defense because evidence indicated he quickly acquired a substantial amount of the medication. Additionally, both of Asunta's parents insisted they were only giving her medicine for her hay fever. Therefore, they were unable to explain why she had taken so many tablets the day before she passed away. Following 3 days of rigorous deliberation, the jury returned a verdict that was even harsher than what the prosecution had requested. In contrast to Basterra's alibi of being by herself at home, they gave credence to the evidence of a 15-year-old acquaintance of Asunta's who stated to have witnessed her with Basterra on the day of the crime. When Asunta was transported to the country house and smothered before being dropped at the country track, the jurors conjectured that Basterra may have hidden in the back seat of the vehicle. Nevertheless, both have filed appeals in an effort to have their convictions overturned. Deeply troubling doubts regarding the couple's adoptive motivations were raised by the guilty conviction. How in the world's name would you adopt a child at the age of 9 months, nurture and train her, only for you to murder her? Although Basterra had never been interested in having children, he was probably under pressure from Porto's parents. Failures in determining their eligibility as adoptive parents were brought to light by this case. Eventually, both were sentenced to 18 years in prison for the murder of the young girl, after spending 2 years in pretrial detention accused of the murder of their adopted daughter. A year following the girl's passing, her mother Rosario paid tribute to her with an obituary that was frequently printed in the press and had just the words, "I will always love you, Mom." On November 18, 2020, Rosario Porto committed suicide at the Riess prison after making multiple attempts. She was discovered hanging in her cell. At Tesoro, Basterra is currently serving out his sentence. How can both parents treat their child in such an evil manner? What do you think about this case? Let us know in the comments section below. Don't forget to check out any of our videos displayed on your screen with just a click. See you in our next video.